right, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be looking and kind of very high level comparing two subcompact 40 S&W pistols. The first one is the Smith & Wesson XD40 subcompact. XD40. This is the original XD40, not the Gen 2. The next one that we have is the Beretta PX4 Storm subcompact. Okay. Again, like I mentioned, both of these are chambered in 40 S&W. So both of these are 40 cals. I just recently picked up the PX4 Storm subcompact, which, interesting thing, I have wanted one of these for quite some time and never got around to picking one up for some reason, and just recently learned that they are discontinued as of 2023. At some point in 2023, Beretta discontinued these, and I always wanted one and managed to pick one up online for a pretty good price. It was a Beretta factory reconditioned one, so it does have a bit of a unique serial number with Beretta. When they factory recondition their pistols, they do an upside down Y of all things at the last digit of the serial number. Sorry, the quality of this is not up to what it used to be. For some of my other videos, I'm filming this handheld on an iPhone, so you will maybe notice a little bit of shaking, and it is dark in the room that I'm in. Not good lighting up here, so I'm using the flashlight on the iPhone, so you may see kind of an unusual glare. But these are two very, very nice looking pistols. You can see here on the Springfield XD, I did the Pierce grip on the bottom, so gives you a little bit more room to hold, get your pinky on there. On the Beretta PX4 Storm, this little additional part that flips down is built into the factory magazine, so it really lets you get basically 2.5 fingers on the grip there. So looking at these two guns, the Smith & Wesson is very, very light. I can tell you, I did check both of these before I started the video. Since I'm filming one-handed, I'm not going to be able to do another check, but you can trust me on this, that they are both empty. Let's see if I can do this one-handed so there's nothing in there. This is a good time to point out this little tidbit here. That little thing right there at the top, I don't know if you can see that. That is a round indicator. Let me see if I can manage to pull it up with my finger. See how that little thing there will lift up? That indicates if there's a round in the chamber. So as you can tell, there is not a round in the chamber. And that's one of the safety mechanisms on the Springfield, on the XD40. Another safety mechanism is this trigger there, that little trigger mechanism. The trigger cannot be pulled if that center part is not depressed all the way in. Also, the backstrap safety. So you got 3 different safeties built into the Springfield here, and the beauty of these are none of them get in the way. That's a big thing with safeties, right? You don't want your safety to get in the way when you do need to use this firearm. Okay, so like I mentioned, both of these are subcompact variants, meaning I believe a 3-inch barrel on the Springfield, a 3.3 on the Beretta, The Beretta has a 10-round mag with it. The Springfield is 9+1, obviously, and the Beretta is 10+1. So we looked at some of the safety mechanisms on the Springfield. On the Beretta, as far as the Beretta goes, safety mechanisms here, you've got your actual physical safety, ambidextrous on both sides. That includes a hammer drop, okay? So obviously red is showing, so it's hot. It's ready to fire. Down there, that is safe. You can see it's right now it's double action only. So this is a double action, single action. So if I were to flip this up to the fire position, and now, again, this is empty. I verified before I started the video. That's on, you see now? See, it's operating in a double action mode, right? This is a striker fired. Okay, no, I'm sorry, this is not a striker fired. This is a hammer fire. The Springfield's a striker fire. So double action, you can see it's working the hammer there. If this were cocked, let me see if I can do this one-handed. And of all things, I'm using my left hand here, and I am not left-handed. So if the gun is armed, you can slide this down, and it would decock it. Okay, see what that did there? So you can shoot double action, single action. You can see here, this gun was made in the USA. PX4 Storm, made in the USA. So if that's important to you, the Beretta has that. The Springfield, on the other hand, made in Croatia. So this is one of the Croatia manufactured models. It is it's still a very good gun. I gotta say, in shooting both of these, I can tell you, I'm personally a fan of a 40 cal. I know there's a lot of arguments that go around about 40 versus 9mm, and this and that. I prefer 40. It's what I got started in. I've accumulated a good bit of 40 ammo, and I just prefer it. You know, some people find 40 a little snappy. I don't at all. Yes, a 9mm is a little bit smoother, but I prefer the 40 cal, and the ballistics testing that I have seen does seem to indicate comparable rounds of 40 is going to produce a little bit more damage and have a little bit more stopping power. But, you know, ultimately that is a null point, just to be completely honest, right? There are many instances of people having grave bodily harm inflicted on them by a 22 LR, okay? So ballistics testing is just not the end-all be-all. Nobody is going to want to come face-to-face with a 9mm or a 380 or a 40 or a 45, whatever it is. I guess hypothetically, if you're facing off against a big game, right? Like if you're concealed carrying or carrying one of these in the woods and come across a bear, you know, then there may stopping power is going to come into play a little bit. But for every day, it's nitpicking, honestly. So I just prefer 40 personally. Now, customizations for these. So both of them do have an accessory rail, I guess you would call it, built into it. So you could put a little light on these, or a laser, something along those lines. Other than that, though, the Springfield is not very, there's really nothing else you can do. So as you saw earlier, I did have the pierce grip on the magazine here. So that's a very minor customization, but See if you can see, it does allow me to get my pinky completely on the firearm when I'm gripping. Whereas on the Beretta, if I can get this magazine back in here one-handed, if you don't flip out that little bottom part there, you are just not getting a pinky on that, okay? It's just not going to happen. If you flip this down, now you're getting like 2.5, right? So 2.5 on there. I gotta say, looking at these two side by side, let me drop that down. So looking at these two side by side, I wanted to try to check the width for you all, give you an idea. Okay, so the Beretta is going to be a little bit wider. It is negligible, to be honest, but it is a little bit wider in terms of a side profile. One thing a lot of people say about the XDs is that they kind of sit high, right? So this part appears higher, especially if you're comparing it to something like a Glock, but it is not a big deal at all. Let me see if I can overlay these two. Nope, that's not going to work. So let's see if you can see a size comparison just from this method. So the Beretta is a little bit sleeker on the back end. You got this curve down here, which is going to aid in concealed carry a bit. And yeah, they are very, very comparable sizes. Okay, I got to tell you, I really, really like the feeling of the Beretta when you're holding it in your hand. The trigger in single action mode is fantastic. So once you have done the first double action pull, then it will run in single action, or you could of course manually pull back the hammer and go that route. One thing is hammer fired firearms it's not the best thing in the world to dry fire these. So Beretta does recommend that you do not dry fire more than absolutely necessary. So you know, if you want to practice trigger pulling without shooting live rounds, you know, you need to get a pop cap or a dummy round or something along those lines. Whereas on the Springfield, the striker fires, it's perfectly fine to dry fire these. You know, you'll inevitably hear people say, "Oh, you don't want to dry fire," but there is no harm in dry firing. When we look at trigger take up, okay, so you can see right there is where it's about to break. So there's a bit of take up, okay, before it's going to break. Whereas the Beretta, obviously in double action only mode, in double action only, it's quite a long pullback, right? But if this is pulled back, it's going to break at the very end right there. It's a minimal pullback. You can see this warning right here. It does fire without the magazine. So again, ambidextrous hammer drop. Drop the hammer down. Now you're back completely in safe mode. For me, if I'm picking one of these to run as an everyday carry gun, I'm going to lean towards the Beretta. Quite frankly, I like the styling of it. I think it is nice to be able to run it as double action only. So, you know, the slide has not been racked. You got your, you can control the safety a little bit better with this. But again, that means you're going to have to remember that you've got the safety on. If the what hits the fan, if the shit hits the fan one day and you're in a stressful situation, are you going to remember to quickly pull this out, flip the safety off before you can go live? So, again, you pull this out and you're shaking, you got adrenaline pumping, and you go to pull and there's nothing there. And then you're going to have to, at that point, remember to turn off the safety so that you can proceed, right? So, something to think about. But another thing is the reliability. Okay, so reliability-wise, I have had absolutely no failure to feeds or misfires or anything with either one of these. They both run like tanks. I had a Glock 27 before, and of course it will feed anything that you it'll shoot anything that you give it, that you feed it. Others can be a little bit finicky with that. So, both of these though are very, very good. I run a lot of reloaded ammo and absolutely no failure to feeds or failure to fires whatsoever. One thing about Glocks is Glocks, by nature, they do not have a very tight or supported cylinder. So when you're shooting ammo out of Glocks, it causes a bulge in the brass due to that unsupported nature of it. And that unsupported cylinder means that there's play. So that's what makes it feed anything, right? That's the number one thing. If you're shooting and you got the stovepipe, right? You'll have a bullet go up and stovepipe in where it did not feed all the way up into the cylinder. That's because of the tight tolerances. Glocks run looser tolerances, which means everything will feed because it's not so tight. The downside of that is it is going to cause bulges in the brass after you shoot it, which makes it a little bit more difficult to reload. Not impossible. You just got to buy a special die to get that bulge out before you can reload that brass. But again, it's an extra step that you don't have to worry about if you're shooting one of these. And these have taken every piece of reloaded ammo that I've thrown at them, and I do not shoot on the range high dollar stuff whatsoever. I feed them the cheapest Winchester white box is what I used to call them, or Remington ammo, just whatever I can find. Buy a lot of reloaded ammo if I don't feel like running it myself from the local dealer around here, and both of these run everything fine. Now, something else I did want to point out, though, is since I was talking about carry guns, so I said I strongly preferred a 40 cal as a personal defense, and really these are more of a nightstand gun, I would say, because I don't like wearing a heavy holster with me a lot of times, and I'm not a guy that's going to be wearing jeans every day. A lot of times I may be wearing khakis and or athletic shorts if I'm out on the weekend kicking around town or something like that. Athletic shorts and sweatpants don't lend well to having a holster with a firearm hanging off the side of it. So I did want to point out if you're looking for something to conceal carry, really take into account when you're going to be carrying and how you plan on carrying, because you may be better suited with something a little bit smaller, a little bit more lightweight. For me personally, that looks like, let me see, this is my little gun box right here. I keep my stuff in here. So for me personally, that looks like, all right, I'll go ahead and show you some of my others. So I got a High Point C9. That was one of my first pistols I ever bought. Those things are ugly as all get out. There's no denying that. They are just straight up ugly, and they feel so cheap. The plastic here is just super cheap, super low quality. The trigger's plastic. It just feels low quality. I know these other triggers are plastic as well, but this one just, you can feel the difference in it. And the slide is heavy as all get out. But if you've ever seen any videos on the high points, they are borderline indestructible. They can basically run anything. The other one that I have here is my fun thing. Got it completely as I don't know, a joke I wanted to say, but not really a joke. Just, I had always wanted one, and I came across a good price on one, so chose to go with it. This one is loaded, so I'm gonna spit some of these out before we continue, and I will show you, since I ejected those out, what I was running. So now you can see it is empty. Cylinder's completely empty, so I'm gonna set that out of the way. I was this time running all see if I can even find the name of this stuff on it. This is some old ammo right here. Defender 2.5 inch, which I think it's shooting out like several of these plates, and then with some BBs behind them. This is a Taurus Judge Magnum in stainless. So this is basically a shotgun, right? So you can shoot, of course, 410, 2.5 inch, and 3 inch, or 45 long Colts, for very close range self-defense. You know, throwing out three pellets with several. 3 of these discs with several pellets that are the same size as a 9mm round. It's going to make somebody think twice, right? So, is it practical? Absolutely not. It is not practical. It is heavy. It's big, but it is a lot of fun to go out in the woods with some 410 and just shoot around, tear up some cans and tear up some targets with some 410 birdshot, you know. But back to what I was going to show you all is this little thing here. This is what I'm more likely to run as my everyday carry, because this is something that you can truly slip in a pocket, with a pocket holster, or sometimes just put it in your pocket with no holster whatsoever. I have not cleared this gun, so I'm going to try to clear it one-handed. You know what, actually I'm going to put the phone down for just a moment. Right, so it is cleared. There is nothing in the chamber whatsoever, but this is a Diamondback DB9. That'll focus. Diamondback DB9. This little thing is very small. You put it next to something like the these things do not want to balance, do they? You put it next to something like the XD, and you can see the XD just kind of dwarfs it, right? So it's much smaller. You know, this doesn't even necessarily do it justice, I can tell you. Part of the concealability comes from how thin it is. So this is a single stack. You're not going to hold as many shots, obviously, but it is a single stack, little 9mm Diamondback firearm. And I really like this thing. Now, the magazine is loaded. You can see I'm running some very cheap, I believe, reloaded 9mm. Don't have the magazine fully loaded, so. But I'm not going to throw one up into the chamber at any point. But you can see here I have the same extended grip on this one. This comes from the factory like this, where they have a flat plate. Makes it a little easier to conceal, or this plate here that can get you a little bit more on it. And this one's really, oh man, 2 not much more than 2 fingers on this, but it is a 9mm, so it is it's not snappy. It's not a snappy gun at all. You can see the sights has the red on the end and the whites on the back. That's something I guess I can compare it to this one. This one has whites all around, and then the Springfield has whites all around. See if I can get a quick size comparison of these two side by side. So you can see it's basically just smaller all around. Not a humongous difference, right? It's smaller back here in the back. Over here on the side, it is a bit smaller trigger guard area. Obviously, this one's sticking out, but it's not a significant difference, right? What makes all the difference in the world is the weight. This thing is light. It's obviously a polymer pistol. This one's coming out of Cocoa, Florida. Same place that Kel-Tecs come out of. And you can see this one is 9mm, 9x19 plus P rated as well. So I have never personally run plus P ammo through it, but I don't have any doubts that it wouldn't handle that. Quite frankly, the Diamondback, you'll see horror stories online about people having issues with failure to feeds and that it's finicky with ammo. I personally have not experienced that. I have run this thing with some really, really high dollar 9mm hot ammo, not plus P, but just hot ammo and hollow points, and no issues whatsoever. I've run it with the cheapest range ammo reloaded. Range ammo, absolutely no issues with failure to feeds, nothing like that. So I don't know what those people are doing. Maybe they got unlucky. Maybe I got lucky. But I've never had any of those same problems that they're running into. With these, I may just be partial to the feeling of it, but I still strongly prefer the Beretta. I like the styling of it. I like the size, how it fits in the hand. That's a big thing. So with the Springfield, the grip feels, I don't know, a little bit small, you might say. And when you hold it, you do feel like there's a lot of slide above your hand. It's hard to verbalize that, and it's hard to tell from looking at it, but it's like when you hold it, there's a lot of gun above your hand. Whereas with the Beretta, you feel like you're holding higher on the gun, so there's less up here, and you feel like the weight is more evenly distributed on the Beretta. I also prefer hammer fire, right? So I don't know. I'm a little bit old style with that. Growing up, my father always had a Taurus PT92, I think is what it is. It's the copy of the Beretta PT92. I think that's what it was, or 92 FS maybe is what they called the Berettas. But yeah, it's the same mechanism here as far as firing goes, and it has the decocker and things like that. So yeah, when you're talking about more physical, old-fashioned safety mechanisms, the Beretta has more just by this simple thing right there, right? So it has a decocker and the ability to pull this back manually, and then decock, or of course run double action and then single action after that. The Springfield's more of the hidden safeties, okay? So again, you've got the safety mechanism here in the trigger, where if you try to pull the trigger back, or if it's getting bumped from the sides, whatever, it will not go back unless that is pushed all the way in. You have the back strap safety here. You have the a round indicator that would flip up here on the top if there's a round in the chamber. You also have this little indicator right here indicating that it is ready to fire. So I know I mentioned earlier that this one's double action, single action, so even if it is not cocked or ready, you can double action fire it. The Springfield, you cannot. So again, I'm gonna do a very, very quick test here. Magazine's empty. There is nothing in the chamber. I can tell that from the round indicator, but let's see if we can confirm a little bit better. Let's see if I can use my other hand for this. I have a little bit more strength in my right hand to do this. You can see there's nothing in the chamber there. So I wanted to show you this indicator right there. That's what it'll look like after you've racked the slide back once. But when you pull it, that goes away. So now if you're carrying the weapon and you do not have one in the chamber, obviously, because as soon as you rack the slide, that's going to prepare it again. But if you're just carrying it with the magazine in, you don't have one in the chamber, before you can shoot, you're going to have to rack this slide to prepare it. Otherwise, it's nothing, right? Now, it does not have to be a big rack. See, it's already ready right there, just at that level. So, obviously, what I just did one-handed is not going to be enough to throw around up into the chamber. But that alone will pull that striker back. This is a striker plate fired. Whereas this one, you could carry it locked and loaded all the way. I personally wouldn't recommend that. I would carry it as, you know, in this mode right here. So you can have one in the chamber. Your hammer is not cocked, so then your first shot's going to have to be a long double action pull before you can start running single action. That's just the slide catch right there. Springfield has a side catch as well. Obviously, Diamondback does this also. Diamondback takes down almost just like a Glock does with these little things on the side, whereas the Springfield, this here, rotates down, and then let's see, how does this work? The Springfield, again, I won't have to dry fire it. I know that rotates down. I don't know why I'm struggling with it. Oh, the slide has to be racked all the way back before you can do that. So yeah, the slide has to be racked all the way back before you can flip that down. So again, I'm going to put the phone down just ever so briefly. Okay. So now the slide is racked. You can see there's nothing in it. Now this can be, oh, it's twisted up. That's the secret there, twisted up. And then when you drop your slide, which I'm not going to drop it full speed, I'm a bit of an idiot there. I was doing it with the magazine in the gun. You cannot disassemble the gun with the magazine in the gun, so that was the mistake that I was making there. But without the magazine in, the slides right off the front. The Beretta, on the other hand, this little thing right here, you got to work it down and then out ever so slightly. Again, with no magazine, and that will allow you to strip this one down. So a little bit different of a process, and I'm not going to go through that now. Just, it's too difficult one-handed, but you know, I'll let y'all make up your minds for yourselves. Which do you think looks better? Which do you prefer? Sorry, I was getting that back in. So obviously now they have several other variants, the XDS, like I said, the XDM, even the XD Gen 2. But for you all, which do you prefer? Springfield XD Subcompact or the Beretta PX4? PX4 Storm subcompact. I look forward to reading y'all's comments and hearing the debate, and I will see y'all in the next one.